My dad slammed the courtroom door and turned to face me. "You don't deserve a cent of this." My lawyer leaned close and whispered, "Stay calm, Sarah." I froze. Right then, I realized this battle wasn't just about money anymore. Hi, I'm Sarah Collins, 34, and I live in a small apartment in Columbus, Ohio. I work as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm, and most months I'm just trying to keep up with rent and student loans. I'm not glamorous, I'm not flashy. For most of my life, my father made it clear that my older sister, Diane, was his favorite. She got the praise, she got the attention. I got the silence. I used to dream about owning a home someday, about feeling financially free, but I honestly doubted it would ever happen. What they never noticed, though, was something they couldn't take from me. I wasn't rich or successful by their standards, but I had a quiet determination and a sharp eye for detail, and that would change everything. If your family ever doubted your worth or tried to take what's rightfully yours, subscribe and share your story in the comments. Click hype and let's show them together that we are not invisible. The day my grandmother passed, I expected grief. What I didn't expect was a courtroom. My father stood up during the initial hearing and announced, loudly, that he was challenging the inheritance she had left me, $200,000. He said I wasn't capable of managing it. "You'll never be capable of handling that kind of money," he said, his voice bouncing off the courtroom walls. I felt the heat rise in my face. In the gallery, Diane sat with a small, satisfied smirk. People around us began to murmur. I could feel their eyes on me. Then the judge leaned forward and asked my father a question that stopped him cold. She referenced certain letters and documents that my father clearly believed were buried and forgotten. His confidence cracked, just slightly, but I saw it. The shame hit me first, then frustration, then something slower and heavier. Disbelief that my own father would stand in a courtroom and try to strip away what my grandmother had chosen to give me. The days that followed were suffocating. Diane sent emails to family friends, painting me as someone unstable and undeserving. My phone buzzed with cold, distant replies from relatives I had trusted. My father called me privately one evening, his voice low and controlled. "Just give it up," he said, "and we can all forget this happened." I sat in my kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, something steadier. Then came the brunch. My aunt pulled me aside in front of everyone and told me I was a disappointment, that I was making a scene, that grandmother would have wanted peace in the family. I looked her in the eye. "I won't back down this time," I said, and I meant it. Quietly, in the evenings after work, I started organizing everything. Emails from my grandmother, letters she had handwritten, bank statements that showed her clear and deliberate intention, every folder labeled, every date noted. I had always been the one who paid attention to details. Now that habit was going to matter. What my father and sister didn't know was that I had been documenting things for years, not out of suspicion, but out of habit. I keep records, it's just who I am. Old emails saved in folders, printed letters stored in a binder at the back of my closet, bank correspondence I had organized by date. My grandmother had always been careful with her words, and I had always been careful to keep them. What they didn't know was that I had everything documented, and I had a lawyer who actually believed in me. As the court date approached, I felt something building quietly beneath the surface, a calm kind of readiness, like I had been preparing for this moment without even knowing it. An old family lawyer named Mr. Holt had once worked closely with my grandmother. He reached out to me after hearing about the case, and from our first meeting, I knew he understood what was at stake. He reviewed every document with a steady, practiced eye. He coached me on how to present myself, what to say, and when to say nothing. My father and Diane, meanwhile, grew louder and more confident. They assumed the court would side with family favoritism. They assumed their money and their connections would be enough. Mr. Holt just smiled quietly when I told him that. "You might be surprised," he said, "what she truly intended for you." I held on to those words. I carried them into every sleepless night and every moment of doubt. I was ready. The courtroom was still. The air smelled like wood polish and old paper. The judge called the session to order, and my hands were flat on the table, calm. Then Mr. Holt presented the evidence, the notarized letter from my grandmother, written in her own handwriting, naming me by full name and stating her clear wishes. The emails between us, the bank documentation, every piece placed in front of the court with precision. My father's expression shifted from arrogance to confusion. Diane leaned forward and whispered something to their attorney. The judge read quietly, then looked up. "Mr. Collins," she said, "this documentation is not only extensive, it is legally conclusive." My father stood abruptly. "That's not possible," Diane interrupted, her voice sharp. The judge raised her hand. Silence. The courtroom murmured. Heads turned. The judge ruled clearly and without hesitation. The inheritance was mine. I sat very still for a moment. Then, for the first time in that entire ordeal, I felt completely and fully seen. I walked out of that courthouse holding a folder I wouldn't let go of, and somewhere behind me I heard my father's voice, quieter now, trying to explain himself to their attorney. Diane wouldn't look at me. A few family members who had stood against me looked away as I passed. I didn't feel angry, I felt free. That evening, alone in my apartment, I sat with the settlement paperwork and finally exhaled. Sometimes the people who overlook you are counting on you to believe what they say about you. Sometimes the quiet strength inside you is the very thing they never saw coming, and it cannot be stolen. If your family ever tried to take advantage of you financially, you already know how deep that hurt goes. Subscribe and drop your story in the comments below. Click hype to help this video reach others who've been through it too. You are not alone in this. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, give it a like and click hype to help it reach the people who need to hear it most. Share your own experience in the comments below. I read every single one.